I was raised in a loving Christian family. I had two older sisters and a caring mom and dad. My father was a pastor, so as you can imagine, we were at church a lot. They raised us knowing all of our rights from wrongs, and we loved being at church. I have no regrets at all. My childhood was wonderful. And as I reached high school, I was a typical teenage girl who just loved getting the attention from guys, and noticed that every time I would give them attention, they would give me more in return. And as being an insecure teenage girl, that of course just made me feel so special and loved. And over the course of a couple years in high school, I had quite a few relationships with men. And by the time I was 16, I found a guy, and surprisingly, we became serious. And we dated all throughout high school. And it was after graduation that he asked me to marry him. And I was like really, really excited, thinking this is going to be a new stage in life. I'm now, graduated high school, starting this new chapter. And so I said yes. And I moved in with him. And a few months after that, I ended up getting pregnant. And of course, I was concerned about what my parents would say, and they were totally supportive and loved me and helped me through everything. And actually, when I got married in April of 1996, I was 5 months pregnant at the time. And in October of that year is when I had my first daughter, my oldest daughter, Madison Rose. My marriage was rocky throughout really the entirety of it. And when Madison was 2 years old, we separated. And it was probably one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do in my life. And once that happened, and once we were separated, I continued down the path of just partying, going to clubs and men, and that lasted a couple years. And then when Madison was actually 5 years old, I became pregnant again. And this was by a guy that I met at a club, and I was just beyond devastated. Didn't know what I was gonna do, but I knew that I was gonna have this child. So of course I sat down and talked with my parents, and I was surprisingly shocked again at just the unconditional love that they gave me and support. And my two older sisters, they were just so supportive and loving, and it meant a lot to me. So actually then in April of 2003, I had my second daughter, Averly Ann. And during this time that I had her, I of course was lonely and just wondered so many times, like really what kind of man would want a 26-year-old woman with two kids. And at that same time, my ex-husband was single as well. And so we started talking and we started dating again. And when Averly was 4 months old, I became pregnant for a third time. And there was no question in my mind, I was not gonna have this child. I was not gonna put myself through this again. I was not gonna put my parents through this again, my family. And I begged my ex-husband for him to pay for an abortion. And I remember on the drive home from work that day, on the phone with him and just crying and saying, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. And he refused. He said, no, I'm not giving you any money for that. And without me even knowing, he had called my older sister. And I think he really knew how much influence she had over me and how much I just really respected her and longed for her acceptance. But I didn't know that he had even called her. And I remember the day so well. I walked in from work that day and the phone rang. And it was her, it was my sister. And I could tell by the tone on her voice that there was a deep concern. And she said, Lindsay, I know about the pregnancy. I just got off the phone. And I became numb. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. It was just like my whole world became just a total chaos. And, you know, I tried to just explain to her why I could not have this child, why, you know, this child would be so much better in heaven with Jesus and God, that he would take much better care of it than I could. I've made so many horrible decisions. And she said these words to me. She said, Lindsay, we are going to love this child. We're going to take care of this child. You are not going to take its life because God has a plan for it. And it was in that moment that I fell to my knees. And so I took it upon myself to not have the abortion, to take my sister's advice, keep the child, love the child. And it was on June 22nd of 2004 that I gave birth to my third daughter, Elsie Jolie. She has been a joy in my heart. And I knew I needed to make a change and that I needed to put God first in my life. Up until this point, everything I did was trying to earn the attention or try to find some type of love from somebody else other than God. And I took small steps. You know, I chose to attend church regularly every Sunday, and then the next thing I did was join the choir, then went to a Sunday school class, started going to prayer meeting. And during that same time, I started praying specifically for 3 characteristics in my next husband. You know, I was not concerned about, oh, what man is going to want a woman with 3 children. It was, I actually had faith that God was going to bring me the right person. I didn't worry about that anymore, that some man wouldn't want me. And so I started praying specifically for 3 characteristics. And it was interesting over that time that I started changing my life and putting God first, that there was a guy that I had actually went to church with for years that I really honestly didn't notice before. But over the course of months and a year, he started becoming attracted to me. And I started looking more at, you know, character and godly walk. So it was after prayer meeting one evening, I had asked this gentleman out for coffee. And he said yes. We actually spent a couple hours over 1 cup. And then, still not quite sure, you know, asking God, God, is this who you want in my life? Is this the right man for my children? And we decided to go ahead and schedule another coffee. Spent more hours. It was after that time that we both knew that this is the direction that God wanted us to go. And on December 30th of 2005, I married my absolute best friend. The best thing that's happened to me and my 3 daughters. He has been a dream come true. And it's amazing to see how God has restored my life, has brought happiness to my family, and has just impacted so many different lives through it all. My life has been completely transformed through this experience. And it's the grace of Jesus Christ that has brought me to where I am today. My God is a God of second, third, fourth chances. And the one thing that I have learned is that when you give God your all, He's all about however many chances it takes. And if you would have told me years ago that I would be where I am today, there's no way that I would believe it. And I am so blessed and just so extremely happy and grateful for everything that God has blessed me with. And I'm also happy to say that the relationship with me and my ex-husband is just the best it's ever been. He has actually dedicated his life to Christ through all of this, and he is actively involved in the same church that my husband and I attend, and it's just been an amazing example of, again, God's grace and love, and I'm just so thrilled that God would choose me to be able to be this example.